What's up, guys? Nightingale here, bringing you a 7 Deadly Sins gear guide. Now, this has been pretty commonly asked for in my chat. I get the question a lot in chat for this, and I don't mind answering the question, but I'm just going to make this to get a general information out here. Obviously, if you're on my stream, you're more than welcome to ask, and we can discuss what's probably better for you. But I'm going to give you an overview of kind of what to do with gear and how to get going, and we're going to break this up into 3 types of sections. We're going to look at an absolute beginner. You just started your 7 Deadly Sins account and you have nothing, you have no experience, know nothing, and you want to know how to roughly gear your characters. Start with the beginner section. If you've been playing for a little bit, you kind of got a decent grasp of what's going on in the game, but you still haven't quite beat through the first 6 chapters of the game. You probably want to go to the progressing chapter and maybe start there. And if you've been playing for a while, you've beat chapter 6, I would suggest maybe looking at the advanced, as this is going to start setting up for specific characters and getting more in depth, because you're probably going to get closer and closer to getting combat class locked on story missions versus not having the right character or damage to do so. Albeit that is a clause, I should say. Not every character can be geared to beat everything, so we're going to give you general information for general character usage. Obviously, there's going to be some things that are just going to be too situational that we're not going to get into. It's just way too much of a rabbit hole. So we're going to talk about what sets to use, and we're just going to quickly go over that. And it's basically there are 4 sets you should concern yourself with in the game. The first set is a 4-piece set, which is the attack set, which increases your attack stat by 20%. We have the HP set, which increases your HP stat by 20%, and it is also a 4 set. Then there are 2 sets that are mentioned in the game that are good. It's just depending on which side of the coin you're going to be on. The first one is defense, which is a 2 set. It can be stacked to a 6-piece set. You can have 3 buffs of this running. It is possible. Defense is probably the most used set in the game, since every character is going to be based around one of either the attack or HP set with a defense set. We're not going to cover on how to build specialty builds of triple defense sets. Your mileage may vary with if you want to go that route. Those are very niche builds for very, very one-off situations. So don't think, hey, I'm going to stack triple defense. Run HP defense or attack defense. Don't run triple defense unless otherwise stated. And then the 4th set we're going to talk about, which is another 2-piece set, which is the crit damage set. This is going to be more niche, but I want to bring this up because there are a few benefits to running this, and I'll be going over this in the advanced guide. So let's jump into the beginner set and get you guys going first. All right, so you're just started the game and you have more than a million questions about the game. Well, you should probably run while you still can. No, I'm kidding. It's a great game. But you're here because you want to figure out how to gear your characters. And in the beginning, it's really, really, really simple. Basically, your goal here is you are wanting to just get started. I feel like with the financial investments here, this can help you out immensely in your progression throughout the game. So one trick I want to show you is how to quickly get a attack and defense set for your characters. So if you go to Vanya and you come down to the equipment merchant, you can buy for 2,000 gold a piece each piece you need for the attack set. The attack set is a 4-piece set, and it's going to be a random roll from 90 to 120 attack, and you just come over and you click purchase and it's complete. Now, I'm not going to purchase all 4 pieces because I don't need these. And I would just recommend, if you just want to make it easy, go grab the bracer, the necklace, the belt, and the ring. Then you want to come to Damali, which is chapter 2. So you at least need to be through chapter 2 to do all this. Come to chapter 2, go into Damali, and then we're going to go get 2 pieces of defense from Damali. Now, I don't recommend initially starting with the HP defense set, just because you, right at this point, are going to be struggling with damage, not necessarily combat class. And so you come here, you're going to only have level 1 unlocked, and you want to get the remaining earring and rune, which, again, I don't need to buy. So once you've purchased all of these, you want to go into the characters of whatever your box is. This is my box currently. And we're just going to use Valenti because I know she doesn't have gear on her. We're going to go into Valenti, into her gear. Now, as you can see here, you see a lot of SSR gear. I do a lot of farming, and this we'll go over later in the advanced guide and the kind of intermediate guide. But we're after is the C-class piece of gear. So go ahead and equip your 4 attack pieces to a character, and then once you've done that, and as well as your defense, we're going to teach you how to quickly level this up. So you click on a piece of gear, and you'll want to click Enhance, and for now, I'm not going to assume you have all the stones, but you might have the stones to be able to do this, and you want to increase your bracer to +5, so you just make sure that it says +5, consecutive, and it'll have this little animation you can do in consecutive enhance, and it'll automatically enhance it to +5. Please, Netmarble, add a singular +5 button for the first enhancement. This would make life so much easier. It's a guaranteed 100% roll, so just give us an instant +5 button, please. This is dumb, instead of making us sit through this. Okay, rant over. So there you go. That's all I want you to do as a beginner is make a +5 piece of gear, and you'll want to do this for the rest of your set. So it's a little bit of a gold cost coming in the beginning to a beginner, and this is going to look like a lot of gold, but it's really not. With what this is going to help you with overall, it's a worth investment. Now let me quickly show you what it'll look like if you properly have an attack defense set equipped. I will just jump out to somebody who is equipped, and let's see here. This is how I can check. You click this little button and it shows, and Mikasa has an attack defense set. So right here you can see she's got an attack bracer, attack necklace, an attack belt, a defense ring, and a attack necklace with a defensive rune. If you look down here, you see the sword and the shield. This signifies that the 20% defense buff is active and the 20% attack buff is active. You've done this correctly if you have both of those symbols at the bottom of your character. Now, I want you to do that for your remaining 2 mainline characters, enhance and +5 their gear. So that's the basic overview of what to do just to get started. Now, in the progressing, I think progressing is probably the best way to do this. In the next chapter of this, we're going to go over a little more in-depth of what you should be doing and how to approach things. So stay tuned for the progressive. All right, so let's kind of go over now more the progression. So we're going to assume you are somewhere in the range of chapter 4 through maybe chapter 6, maybe chapter 7, and you're starting to really get CC locked on stuff. And that's really where the point where this guide comes in handy is this is going to start giving you a good bump in CC and help make some of these fights a lot easier to do. So we're still not going to cover HP defense or anything like that. We're just going to still assume that you need some attack sets, which is still good for the earlier parts of the game. HP defense sets are going to come in more in the advanced section where it's really going to start making a difference in your gameplay. So for this, at this point in the game, you should probably be looking at either you might have to make a full C set of gear. And what I mean by that is instead of having the left side being SSR pieces, you might have to make a set full C. Depends on your character and how bad you're struggling with a section. But at this point, I would like to see people start moving to +5 SSR gear. And we're going to cover their stats really quickly on what we are looking for here. So with SSR stats, and specifically, we're only going to be dealing with them on the right side, or on the left side, excuse me, of your character's gear. Why is that? Because the way it works in 7 Deadly Sins is if you look at the right side stats, they're going to be significantly higher than your left side stats. And what do I mean by that is take a look at this bracer, which has 390 to 520 attack as its base stat. This one is rolled at 508. A good rule of thumb for the bracers is you're going to be wanting to somewhere around 500 attack or higher. Some people say 75%, some people say 80%. I'm at my progression of the game at more at like 95% good roll. before I don't keep it, but I'm short on some bracers. But I would hold on to 510 or higher. You can see one of my earlier bracers right here, which is a 504. This can still be rolled and used on somebody that I don't really need, like an association character, or it could be put on a demon character, somebody I don't really need that just needs CC. And it's okay. You can have a few of these sets, and we've also got a change coming later where we can re-roll this stat with anvils later on. And anvils are a rare currency in the game, so it's not something you just throw around. Now, the only reason I put this ring on real quick is just so that you could see you still need a 4 set, but we're going to assume, for the sake of the video, you've got a C grade ring here. Now, I already happen to have a defense earring leveled, so we're going to go over quickly. We do not want to use the gauge. Not right now. This isn't something we want to be using gauge for. And we're going to enhance this. So you just come over, you click consecutive enhance, and you're going to let it do its thing and level this up. Now, each time it goes up, it is slightly more expensive and use gauge. Of course, it's still on, but it's fine. I don't care. This is minimal to me. This is going to get blown up at the end of the video. I don't need C grade gear. But I want to show you guys what you're after. Basically, the gauge ensures that you are guaranteed an enhancement after so long. As you can see there, it failed and it filled up. So there, we have a +5, we have a +5 1-star earring. So now, to awaken your gear, you just come down here, you click awaken, and it's gonna take 2. So it takes 1 to do the 1st star, it takes 2 to do the 2nd star, it takes 3 to do the 3-star, 4 to do the 4-star, and yes, you guessed it, it takes 5 to do the 5-star. So we're gonna go ahead and awaken this just for the sake of the video. To show you kind of what you want to do from here on out. All right, so we got crit resistance and crit defense. Now, something I want to point out right now, never use hammers, never use anvils whatsoever to reroll the stats on C grade gear. So to go over this, let's go in and let's look at resistance. Let's come down here, and we're going to make sure that anvils are checked off, and we want gold checked on. So the reason you do C grade gear versus SSR gear and you awaken it first is the massive CC boost you're gonna get. Now, in the beginning, I was one of those players who played games where if you invest into what we would consider side grades, this would be classified as for some people, you're wasting your resources. Here, it actually makes a big enough difference that this is a great jump in CC in the beginning. And once I finally caved in and started doing it, it really made a big difference on the content I could clear in the game. So, we're not going to cover right this second what stats each piece needs, but we're going to go over how to get the stat. So for the earring, it's the defense stat is what we're after. There is a very few select pieces that you would use resistance rolls for, but in this case, Valenti would actually be that special case, but for the sake of the video, which is what 99% of your gear is going to be defense roll. You would like to try to roll it since it is gold and it is cheap to do. You want to make sure that you're rolling for 2.5% rolls or higher. You're going to click apply and repeat change and enjoy. So now it's going to go through RNG rolls, and it could roll defense at 3%, or it could roll it at 1%. I could get a bazillion defense rolls, but we're just going to let this roll through, and we're going to try to get a set piece. So we're after defense 2.5. 1.6, not good enough, especially for this. We can afford to roll it all the way. And this could go anywhere from a few rolls to many rolls. I've had one take, I think, 140 rolls, but I was going for a maxed out piece. So I was going for a 3% roll because I was trying to do something very, very specific. But yeah, 2.5% takes the cake. I say let's go ahead and cut the video, and we'll jump back when it hits the 2.5% higher on defense. See you guys in a second.
5 hours later.
All right, there we go. So it took 20 rolls, and it took 100,000 gold to get a 2.6 roll. This is about average. I would say you can get super lucky and one-shot it, or you could get super unlucky, and that's 40, 60, 80 rolls. Just depends on your luck. But that's not a bad cost, and because this can be done on every piece, you can roll a very high defensive ring. or earring in this case. So now you do that for all 3 pieces here. Now I should probably tell you the stats that you're wanting for each piece. So let's go to a character that is almost done. And that would be my Deanne. So we're going to bring the Deanne's gear over so you can look at it. So Deanne has also got UR gear, which is something we're going to cover later. So ignore that fact. But we want to go over the stats at least here. So for the bracer, you're after the attack stat. For the necklace, you're after defense stat. I've been getting screwed on this, and I keep getting resistance. But at least it's a high resistance roll, so I left it for now until I get a bunch of anvils. For the belt, you are after HP rolls. For the ring, you're after attack rolls. For the earring, you're after defense rolls. Again, I'm getting screwed, but I've also got a near max resistance roll, so it's not that bad. And then last but not least, the rune, you are after HP rolls. So under very rare circumstances do you roll resistance rolls as your primary rolls here, and under extremely, extremely, extremely rare circumstances do you roll the pierce substat here. The other 2 stats are negligible. You don't want to worry about it. For for here, it's basically the crit damage and crit chance is useless. Under defensive stats, if we're looking at these, your crit resistance and your crit defense are absolutely garbage. And if you're looking at HP, it's recovery rate and regeneration rate and lifesteal are all trash. So do not worry about those. I've seen some people make some custom builds, you know, where they're forcing some stats, but for 99% of the game, attack on your top row, defense in your middle row, and HP on your bottom row. That should be the easiest way to look at this. So let's jump into the advanced stuff now and get into the sweaty part of gearing your characters. All right, so now we're getting into the advanced stuff. This is where the sweaty part of 7 Deadly Sins happens. And we're going to try to break this out into a few different sections. And I almost want to mention this now because I think I might have even forgot to mention it in the progression guide, is how to farm the gear. Where do we get this from? And where do we get an inventory that looks like mine? Well, it's really simple, and it comes from 3 areas of the game. If you're farming for attack pieces, you go to Vanya. You need to level Vanya to level 5. You need to level Damali to level 5. And you need to do Post-Town Tala to level 5. Now, how do you get them level 5 is really, really, really simple. And it's just a time sink. Basically, you want to come to Chapter 1, you want to do all the remaining story quests, and then you're going to have to farm a few of these red quests to hit level 5. Now, the gear you're going to be getting from the red quests aren't that great. I would actually recommend probably doing the food quests, just because it could probably help you with some affinity levels or attack foods or making foods in general that you need. But maybe farm the food quests until you finish getting your 3 towns leveled up. I don't recommend necessarily donating unless there is a SSR pendant donation event going on, but I would say that is one way of helping speed it up, but your gold's getting flushed down the toilet if there's not a SSR pendant event going on. So that's where you get the gear, is Vanya's attack, Damali is defense, and Tala is the HP sets. If you need the PvP crit damage set, it comes from PvP or through your battle menu right here. All right, so a couple things I forgot to put in the initial pass through is where to get the crit damage set, and there are 3 places that you can get crit damage sets from. One is your weekly PvP chests, which they are right here, and it is this set right here, Congeniality. This is where your biggest source of getting your runes are from, will be from here, or from patrols. So we can get them here, as I stated in patrols, so you can come here to battle patrols. And I should actually have one about ready to... Yeah, I got the necklace right here in patrols, which is a good place for non-PvPers to get it. And then in battles as well, PvP. So for those of you who have the spare coins and you're really, really, really trying to get this, you can come over here to the PvP vendor, and for a lot of PvP coins can buy said pieces of gear. So you need to be in Platinum League and you can buy it for 360 coins. But you cannot get the runes here. So that's the only way you can get the rune is through patrols, through gear selectors, which they occasionally will give out, and you can get them from the gear gacha as well. So I would recommend, since you're mostly after, you know, earrings, or you should be after earrings and necklaces, this would be where you'd want to get them from, but what most people spend their PvP coins on are anvils. Or early game people, you're trying to get a few of the key vital weapons. Not all these are mandatory nowadays because more costumes are coming up, but that's where we end up using our PvP coins. But if you want to get the crit damage sets, that's where they're located. We're going to go back to Deanna and we're going to start talking about HP defense versus attack defense. So there are certain characters in the game that will benefit way more with attack defense, and there are certain characters who benefit way more with HP defense. Now, I'm not going to go over all the characters of who and what actually benefits from this, but this is something that you have to come up with on your own. Does this benefit what I'm doing most? In most cases, most people are going HP defense because of certain final boss mechanics, certain guild boss mechanics, and PvP. It gives them more CC, and the final boss and guild boss mechanics are based around HP in certain scoring aspects. But not necessarily does that always make the best case for everybody. I'll give you 2 examples. Actually, I'll give you 3 examples of where to best use these sets. First one is we're going to talk about Escanor. Escanor is one of the absolute hand few that you do not want to put HP defense on unless absolutely necessary. He's a monster. He's got a crap ton of attack, and this is probably one of the best things you can do for your Escanor is put attack defense set on him. The next type of set would go for somebody like Blue Arthur, Lost Vein Melee, in the sense of, for this, for PvP, I may not do this, but for PvE content, absolutely. I would run attack crit damage on this new blue SSR Arthur. He hits like an absolute truck. And for somebody you're trying to keep alive, like Gother, HP defense is the best bet here. So there are benefits and pros and cons that we can weigh out across everything. We're not going to get into that argument here or on stream. It's basically, what do you feel is best for what you're after? So let's talk about some of the more advanced parts of rolling gear and dealing with gear. So you're going to want to start weaning yourself off eventually of the C grade gear, working on SSR grade gear. And I would recommend that you start with probably your rune and your rings first. Why? Because this is where your biggest stats are going to come from in the jump from. But please note that a C grade rune with perfectly maxed rolled stats is going to look like it is worse than this if it's not rolled good, and it's still better. Until you roll roughly, I think it was around 9% on your HP stats, and you have a roughly a 2500, 2600 HP or higher rune, will you see an actual CC difference. And the way you'll notice is if you click on and off. So if I actually go, I think that Arthur has an SSR rune. So let's go to him real quick because I can actually show you what I'm talking about. So if we go to Arthur, I'm blind, there he is. So if we go to Arthur, so you notice he's got a 9.7 rune, but he's also got it up at 2,728. He's actually just needs 3 anvils, probably temps, and he can probably get that higher. But watch this. Watch his HP is the big thing you want to watch at. It's 96,048. And then when we increase, or when we equip this one, his HP will look like it drops. It should drop, but it's 94,609. So it's just slightly worse. But yet you see that it has a 3,457 HP increase when it's really only like 2,000 difference because the difference in the rolls. So you've really got to roll it good before it really takes over. Now, yes, it will help in the long run. So you definitely want to work on getting yourself off C grade gear. My general rule of thumb was 10% or higher on the roll that I'm after, and it needs to be roughly 85% or higher on its base stat to roll it. So what are you after in an averagely decent set? I'd probably say this is set I'm working on for Droll. We've got roughly 11%, almost 12% attack. This bracer is rolled at max. We've got a near max rolled necklace with a mix of defense and resistance. The only reason I haven't really rolled this yet is because I feel like with the way Droll works, I might want the resistance, so I'm going to play around with it before I commit to rolling it defense or whatnot. Since this was rolled so good, I really don't want to give it up yet. HP, pretty simple. I'm right down the road. I gave up with anvils on this just because I was getting low at the time. I took 2% or higher. When I first work on an SSR piece and it looks like garbage, which I'll show you what a garbage rolled set looks like, I try to go 2% then higher later, because I feel like that's at least enough to get going. The attack, same thing. Some decent stuff here. Resistance, again, is still on here. I've got some pretty bad rolls, but again, it was an anvil thing when it came down to finishing this up. And then HP, I think, is actually in a pretty decent spot. Just needs some hammers and a couple anvil rolls to, well, I say a couple, but I need to roll the anvil on this and roll the anvil on this to get it slightly higher. I almost, if this was it and everything else was maxed out, I might actually hammer this up if this was it, versus blowing, God knows, I could spend 10 anvils, I could spend 200 anvils to get this to 3%. So if I had the hammers, I might hammer it up if it was the last stat I needed. So let's show you what a bad rolled set is, and then we'll go over some information for you. So I think Grimoire's got a pretty bad rolled HP defense set. I think this was just rolled. So yes, so you can see he's got crit damage, attack, crit chance. This is not what you want to see on your gear. Here he's got resistance, defense, crit defense, max rolled, but still trash. And then I actually ended up decently rolling this. I think this was a few anvil attempts. I think I left that or ran out of anvils. He's got absolute crap. I mean, this is just sad. It's a phenomenal rolled rune up here, but it's anvils. It's just, you're seeing the trend here. Anvils, anvils, anvils. Now you see why they're so important and why you don't waste them on C grade gear. Resistance, defense, crit defense, I mean, that's decent there. And this one's literally got one of every darn stat on there. A crit chance, crit damage, pierce rate, and attack. Decent attack roll, but pretty much garbage everything else. So, for advanced players, what are we working on now? Now it's working on getting your full sets built. You're getting the rolls built up. As you can see, Grimoire isn't no slouch with his gear. It's just it needs to be rolled properly. So at this point in the game, you want to figure out where you're putting your gear and why. Reason being is we're going to talk about a character I haven't pulled for, I'm still not going to pull for, and I'm never probably going to pull for him directly. Lost Vein Meliodas. But I'm going to give you a tip for you Lost Vein players and why and how you should roll your gear. So with that, I think it goes to, if I'm correct, I think it's my SR Blue Arthur, this guy. So let's talk about setup and the reason why. So for certain units, and we're going to say that Lost Vein Meliodas is in that category, Jericho is in that category, Camilla is in this category, the SSR Blue Arthur's in this category, and Roxy fits this category pretty well. You could also argue Zeldris and a few others. But for setting up for crit damage sets, you want to put them in your defensive slot. Why? Because the most important two stats in the game are attack and HP. So by committing your attack set to the HP and attack sets, you can roll these perfect and they never will have to change. By putting your crit damage, which, by the way, these are really garbage rolled because I happen to have some event stuff that gave me 5-star awakened stuff, gear. I chose to get the earring and the necklace out of this to make the set. I'll eventually roll the gear much better for Arthur. This is just to show you, and it also just happens to be here for perfect timing. By doing this allows you to take something like the defense set, and you don't have to worry about rolling this. You can get this literally crap rolled, decently rolled. I mean, barely passing rolled, and it's still going to be infinitely better when you change over because he's going to jump his CC so much from getting the defense, and bang, he's got a lot higher defense, and you can make it work for certain content that needs it. So you say you're getting just destroyed in PvP, you're just getting just demolished, but yet you're winning some with the crit damage set. Probably needs to be better rolled, or you need to get something else leveled up, or some part of your team's not there, but you're wanting to keep your Arthur in the fight a little bit longer. Put in the defense set to it, and he'll get a lot more defense. Yeah, you're going to lose the 20% crit damage, which is really nice, but would you rather stay in the fight a little bit longer? Yes. So for those characters, you want to set the gear up like this so that interchanging the defense set isn't as traumatic as if you had a perfect rolled 15 bracer and a perfect rolled 15 ring, and you want to put your attacks, and that's your where your defense set is sitting, and you want to put crit damage there. Well, now you're going to be taking a massive, massive, massive hit here. So I don't recommend you do that here. Couple other things we want to go over is the specialty stuff, which is pierce rate, is really only for characters like, we can argue that with Lilia because of her passive. She could be rolled pierce rate in her gear. But do note that her skill goes off of her attack by lowering her attack by 30%. Assuming you've max rolled it, you're lowering her heal by 30%. So this is a cost versus benefit scenario. You have to do the math on your own. Is it worth doing? No, I don't recommend hybrids. Commit one way or the other. Don't go down the middle. Don't say I'm going to roll half of it pierce, half of it attack. One way or the other. Full pierce, full attack. But don't do either. Valenti is one that you can 100%, and I mean 100% roll resistant rolls on her gear, on her defensive slots, because that is exactly where the way her pierce rate is calculated from. So the higher her resistance rate, the much better her passive is. So 100% roll resistance on her. There's a few other characters in the game that we're going to quickly go over. Hauser being one. He is a farmer, but I don't think at this point in time he is worth rolling pierce rate. Now, yes, his pierce card would get hit infinitely harder, but at this day and age, it's not worth doing. The next one, and the last one, probably the most controversial one that I'm going to bring up is... Where's our boy at? Where is he? Where is he? I am blind. Blue Demon Meliodas. At this point in time, guys, I don't care if you have Blue Demon Melee or Lost Fane or one or the other. I think we are too late in the game to run him full pierce. And why do I mean that? Is for the starting beginner advanced player, you can't afford 2 UR sets. So if you have Lost Fane Meliodas and you have Blue Demon Meliodas, just run a rolled attack set on him. There are certain scenarios where you will want to run HP defense on a Meliodas, and that's typically towards the top 100, but then you've got are you going to be able to one-shot the unit or not, but you will go first. So, I mean, there's many cost versus risk benefits you have to assess yourself, and that's really what it's going to come down to. So you can see here, I've got attack defense rolled on a good bit of my characters. I got HP defense on its way. For some characters, this is just me boosting my box CC. But there are certain units that will benefit me later having the HP sets. Some of them are going to benefit me more having attack sets. The last thing I want to cover is who to UR basically and who not to UR and why. So if you look at my Derriere, I didn't UR her defense because I never really need her defense UR'd, and it allows me to get free things up for being able to UR more characters. But having her attack stats high helps me with event bosses and boss battles and getting high scores on certain things. And then the HP just to live. That's the only reason why I did the HP. You'll see that with Jenna right here. I didn't even commit all the way. She's a demon unit, and the only thing I did is I gave her UR in her attack, so she has the maximum attack that I can get on her. And then I just needed a little bit of HP just so that her CC isn't super low, and it gives her a little bit more survivability. When I'm starting to slow down in rating gear up, I'll probably take her up more. I'll probably do her rune, but it's okay if you don't do complete sets for certain characters, but obviously your PvP characters, you absolutely need to do max UR. I should probably even go over where to get it at that point, because, you know, as a beginner player, you probably don't know, or an intermediate player, where to get the stuff. So let's go there real quick. Training Cave is where you get your UR stones. So great segue into where and how to get it. Now, this is something you're going to need to take note pretty early on and start working on. There are many different ways of getting UR gear, and you can get some of the UR stones through events, through final boss rewards, through whatnot. But the most place where you're going to get the stones specifically for UR gear is in Training Cave. Now, obviously, you have to be able to clear it as high as you can go. Your box is really going to determine how far you can do in this. And to give you without going into a Training Cave guide, the basic thing is you want to come into Training Cave. If you've got a good box, you come in, you do your level 3 battles. You have three different gold amber stages, which are done after every 3 colored amber, normal color, so red, blue, and green colored amber stages. You'll go to a yellow amber stage where you will get engraving stones. And when you're done with, once you've got engraving stones, which you need 10 per piece, this is also why it's a little bit, this is why I say you kind of got to choose. You come over here to Merlin. Merlin is where you engrave your gear. Now, you can remove engravements. I don't really recommend engraving people that you just don't plan on using. Make sure your set's good. Make sure you've checked a bunch of boxes before you do this. But you're going to come over. So this is on Elizabeth, so we'll assume we were doing Elizabeth. You need to have 10 of these purple stones, and you need to have 1 of these stones here, which where you get this stone is you combine 6 5-star awakening stones at King, and you'll get 1 of these stones. Then you pick the hero. So in this case, this was a gear set meant for Elizabeth. We'd do Elizabeth, select, and you would hit engrave. Now, I don't want to actually engrave this because I've got these stones reserved for somebody else. But that's how you would actually get UR gear. So hopefully we've been able to go over a little bit of information to get everybody started at some point. Now, obviously, this is the most advanced, and this is also the longest part of the video, because this is where most of the information really comes from. Now, anybody at any point in time can use this information. You can start working on 85% gear early on. There's nothing wrong with that. You just need to be able to grind for it. You can still use C-grade gear up through probably, I'd say, Chapter 9, Chapter 10, you might have to start going full SSR gear, just because the CC requirements are starting to get pretty high, and I'm assuming at that point you've got a full level 80 team, so it's just going to depend on how your account's built, whether or not you're going to start struggling. So, let's close it out. Alright, so I know this is at the end of the video. I cannot remember if it is or is not in the video, but I would rather be safe than sorry, because this is part of the gear guide, and I want to make sure we get you the right informations. So, one thing I do want to show quickly before we end the video is how to re-roll a SSR piece and what not to do. So we're going to come down here to Griamore, and we're going to re-roll one of his trash stats right here on the spot. I've got 2 anvils, I've got no hammers, and we're going to quickly explain this stuff. So, obviously, don't normally go for the YOLO roll here. We're going to do this just for the sake of the video, and I don't actually care. But the way you would normally re-roll this is you're going to have, you know, a few hundred anvils sitting around. Yes, it will eventually get to that. Make sure your HP is set it to roughly 2%. You can click this manually, but if you would like to speed through this, make sure you have it here. Click apply. Don't do diamonds. Make sure that is done because it will re-roll for diamonds, and that really does suck. but make sure you are on Anvils only. Click apply. And then, but for this case, we're just going to click this twice, pray to RNGesus, and go. So we're hoping for a 2% or higher roll on HP. Being that this is HP, it is probably not going to roll. Maybe. There's a chance. 1.3. All right, there's a chance. I doubt we're going to get lightning to strike 2 times in a row. But, yep, recovery rate, and it's going to be near max stat. Not really. Close enough. But why not? Why? We're here. We're committed. Let's see. Do we get an HP roll live on? Nope, we don't. We get almost a max lifesteal roll. Garbage roll. So I'll need to get some more anvils farmed up here soon. So you get anvils from doing training cave. You get them through events. You get them through PvP. You can buy them. That's possible. But that's your source of anvils. So now we're going to talk quickly about hammers. So we're going to jump over to somebody who actually is hammer worthy. And I think Matrona may have something we can look at. So hammers are something we want to save for a much higher roll to finish off a piece. And I'm trying to see if I've got anything here. Of course, when I go digging for it, it's not, because I've mostly anviled this out. Okay, so here we go. So my rule of thumb is roughly 2.6%. It's kind of worth doing hammers. So hammers are a tricky thing, and these are exclusively through training cave and events and gear gacha. That's the main source of these. So you can get anvils in gear gacha, you can get hammers in gear gacha, you can get them you can get anvils in PvP, you can get these, you can get anvils from training cave, you get hammers from training cave and events. So in this case, if I honestly was looking at this, I would hammer this ring right here. So I would use hammers, it would take 5 hammers, and there's a chance to fail because there's no hammer up event. Those events are pretty rare, and they do come around occasionally, so you want to check your patch notes and make sure that there is a hammer up event, which increases the success rate for super successes, and it also makes sure that they don't fail, because there is a small chance to fail. Honestly though, I've used 300 hammers in one sitting, and I've had 3 fail. So 15 hammers out of 300. My RNG with this, it's really not that bad. But it just comes down to where are you in the game. If you want to play it safe, that is the safest way to do it. I wouldn't do too much lower than this. If I was an Uber whale, I would probably not care, and I'd probably just hammer this whole thing because they're rolled at that point. But we are going to play this safe. I don't have any hammers. I wouldn't do this, and it's good for where it's at. So there you go. That's the little bit last of information that I wanted to make sure I squeaked in. I could just be repeating myself and losing my mind, but I have a feeling I did not cover this. So this is going to be at the end of the video right before the outro, which is now. All right, guys. So I hope there's something in there for everyone. We've got something for the beginners, something for the progressors, the middle of the road players that they're just trying to work on it, and the people towards the end. There's a lot of information. That's really what it comes down to. There is a lot of information in this game, and it's so hard to get everything for everybody out in one statement. So I will leave it with this. If you've got questions about gear, you can definitely leave your questions in the comments below. I do check them, and I will respond to them. If you want to come hang out with me live on Twitch, you can ask away there, and I can run over all this. I don't care. I'll give you a personal overview of it if we have to make sure you understand what's going on. That's really what I want to make sure you guys get at. Is this is kind of like, I guess you could even say, the Cliff Notes version of gearing. This is the abbreviated version of gearing. It can be so specialized on certain units, and it can be very generic for most all units. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I will be happy to help you out with any way I can on gearing and specific character-wise based stuff. So if you guys enjoyed the video, you can make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe if you'd like to stay up to date with the latest information. If you'd like to come hang out with me live on Twitch, the link is down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.